Hi Zach. So I got your text. It's 5:32. I just snapped you. So I'm gonna make a really fast version of this YouTube video. So it's gonna be dog shit. I can do better. Let me know next time. Basically, we're gonna start off with our map of Russia. I know you can't see my hands, but you see this big green blob right here where my mouse is? That is Russia. And the other dark green countries are Belarus on top, and then Ukraine on the bottom where the war is happening right now. So what is all of this green stuff? Well, these are a map of the Slavic people of Europe. Slavic is a very broad term encompassing a variety of ethnicities. So don't worry about all of them, but this is the big map. Sometimes when describing ethnic groups, we break them down into broader categories. So for example, all of the languages these people speak are very related. The same way that English and German are related. The same way that in German I could be like, hello mein Freund, and in English you're like, hello my friend. They're very related. But over here they're all like, talking all like deep and shit. So basically these are the Slavic lands and that he's talking about. So this area, these are the southern Slavs in the dark blue. That encompasses what was Yugoslavia. That place is a mess. These are the Central Slavs, which is the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland. But right here, this dark green is what you want to worry about. And so this is where all the fucking big magic happens. Cut. Notably, completely surrounded by these Slavic areas are the Baltics. Cut. And so, as we enhance, the Baltic countries are Estonia on top, Latvia in the middle, Lithuania on the bottom. The reason why these areas are significant is because they're basically their own identity. They're not Slavic, they're not Germanic, they are their own people. But very consistently, Russia always conquers them. They really seldom have a chance to be free. In fact, Estonia, they're the first countries to declare independence from the Soviet Union immediately. And they love being Western, and they don't like Russia. Russia always wants them because one thing that you can notice is that Russia does not have many seaports or access to water. And seeing this map, you might be like, yo, you're mad retarded. Obviously, they do. But right here, this is the Pacific, which means they can only trade to really America, but also this water sucks. If you notice, it's Alaska, so it's really fucking cold. And the population is over here. Most Russians live in this little third of Russia. And then this is all Siberia. So there's no fucking people. There's no way to really transport stuff. They do a little bit, but there's nothing. The real money is trading with the rich countries in Europe. And if you notice, they have a little bit of access in this Black Sea right here. Not much, but they have to go through Turkey, which fucking hates them. So Turkey can tax the shit out of them. And, you know, they have this little bit right here, but also this is just cold enough where it freezes. So, right where my mouse is hovering, these Baltic countries give them access to trade. So they like to conquer them all the fucking time. Cut. So I guess your professor also wants to learn about some rivers. Really the only one that's actually important is the Volga River, which is right where my mouse is heading. Right here, the Ural Mountains are kind of separating this part of Russia from Asia and this part from Europe. So this river is very important because that's where a lot of people decided to live. Because if you want water, you're going to live by a river. That's where places pop up like Moscow and a couple other cities that don't really matter. So along with settlement is Russia expanded so fast by conquering all the natives that they needed to get a large population. So at a time they were very friendly to immigrants, but the immigrants had to speak Russian, be Russian, even if racially they weren't. So a lot of the people they conquered who were Turkish, not from Turkey, but like a related area, kind of like these other stands, like Kazakhstan, like that's another Turkic country. So Jews lived here. Jew people lived here. So remember that. I try to be very expressive so you remember. So Jewish people settled here. The Caucasus Mountains. This shit is crazy. So if we take another look at Russia, we see these mountains I was talking about. You can see the exact divide between all these cities, and then suddenly it's butt fuck empty. So you can tell this is where they started, and then they expanded this way, and this is where other people live. And then there's a couple of cities by the border, but like they're all really small and they don't fucking matter. You notice this area is just way too fucking cold. It's Siberia. That's why you can't really trade anything over there. This is where the money is. And so Russia has a very big fear of being conquered like they were by the Mongols forever ago. And they're always at war, and so they always have to worry about that. So what they like to do is conquer as much land so no one can take their capital. And they did this in World War II when they had the Soviet Union, and they had like East Germany and Poland, and they had all these buffer states. So if NATO, the US, the Allies, they thought if the US ever invaded, they have to go through all this fucking land, and that would give them enough time to stall. And so the other front, Moscow, is down here. There's mountains, which are the Caucasus Mountains. So if we get a bigger map of this area, these countries, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia. This, I know I'm throwing a whole lot at you, but basically, this little mountains, these guys are fucking crazy. This area is very violent, prone to violence. Mountain people are very independent, so Russia has to fight them all the fucking time. And I know that there's all these red little areas. It doesn't really matter. Don't worry about them. Just worry about Russia and then these three countries. Russia fucking hates Turkey, so they want to have as much space between Turkey and Russia as they possibly can, because Turkey's right here. Russia and Turkey have gone to war so many fucking times. And so this area is pretty important because Russia wants to maintain influence over these countries. And they still do. Armenia, during World War I, Russia's like, hey buddy, I'll protect you. And Turkey's like, I'm going to go genocide the Armenians. And that's what happened, because Turkey also hates Russia. So Turkey also wants this land. So these little countries are stuck between a rock and a hard place. AKA, they're getting fucked. Central Asia. Don't know how deep he's going to go in on this, but check this out. Cut. So this is an ethnic map of Russia. Language map of Russia. Allow me to... So this is an ethnic map of Russia. When you see Russia, you'd assume it'd all be red. But wrong, because they conquered a lot of fucking people. So if we look closely, this whole area is blue. And allow me to rephrase, this is the Soviet Union. So a bit more than Russia. We see the Caucasus, all those Caucasus countries. We see over here are blue. Essentially, all these blue areas are Turkic people. All those countries that end in stan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. If you ever get confused who they are, remember the stands are together, and one of the stands is Turkmenistan. They're Turkmen. Siberia in the Far East. It's cold. There's a lot of trees there, but it's butt-fuck cold. Hard to dig. Hard to grow. It sucks. Gonna go a little faster now. Prehistory. Up to 9th century. I'm gonna try to explain this really fucking easy. Yeah, we're not doing fucking music. So, prehistory up to 9th century CE. So 9th century would be the year 1000. So I'm going to pull up this little map and just kind of talk as we go. It's going to be playing as twice as big speed. Excuse me, go faster. Prehistory, bunch of pagans living there. The pagans were being pagan. And then the east half of the Roman Empire sent missionaries up north, where right here, where Turkey and Greece are, this is like the other half of the Roman Empire. They went north, and then they said, hey, do you want to be Christianity? And Russia's like, sure. So they are Orthodox Christianity, which basically is the same as you and I, but they have a little smidge difference. For example, aesthetically, they're very different. If we search Orthodox, we can tell it's just a lot more rustic, bearded guys, very like deep with this shit. So they were pagans, became Christian, and wanted to be like Rome. The Kievan Rus, they started to build cities, started to trade a little bit. Kievan, I think, means river, and Rus is the name of the river. I don't quite remember, but see the word Russia right there? That's where the word comes from. See the word Muscovy? That's where the word Moscow comes from. So basically, they started becoming religious, and then they're like, hey, if we're Christians and the Eastern Rome are Christians, what if we just hang out and trade because, like, we bull? And so they did. Eventually, they had a little city. Hooray. Eventually, their little city, something bad is going to happen. Look at the map. Look around right here. This is where they are. Sorry for stalling. Boom! What the fuck just happened? Who are these blue motherfuckers? Those are the Mongols. The Mongols, they're going to change their flag in a second here. But Mongols come, they rule, kill a bunch of people, and kind of sucks. The same way that America was ruled by a king, like just some guy that's buttfuck far away that taxes them. That's exactly what's happening here. And you can tell the Mongols are giving everyone a run for their money. So the Eastern Rome is fucking exploding right now. They don't die yet, but they're dying. And so Russia's not making a lot of money. And Muscovite is the area that basically asks for independence. And then they get it. And then we can actually see that if we skip a couple decades. This is Muscovy right here. And they're getting bigger. And then they're like, hey, bitches, fuck off. And eventually, they do. Let me rephrase. This is Muscovy right here. The city's right here, which they just got. Hooray. And then, inspired by Eastern Rome, they have a two-headed eagle, which they still use that symbol to this day. And so he said, go to the 1700s. You can tell they're just getting bigger and bigger, because all those lands were fucking poor. Also, don't get confused. This is the Ottoman right here. I know right here, all the red makes it look like it's one, but their borders are like here. They fight a war with Sweden here. That's cool. Sweden loses. So he said go to the 1700s. Allow me. So here is a map of Russia. Muscovy, very small. Duchy of Moscow, Golden Horde parentheses, because they're owned by the Mongols. Mongols just aren't on this map. This is just Russia. So let's go to the 1700s, shall we? This is Russian imperialism. So Russia has guns, and their capital is secured, and there's all this space between them and anyone else. And so they don't really give a shit what's Europe doing, because they don't want to be dragged into any wars. So they're like, let's use all the guns and people that we have and just fucking run and gun, shoot our way this way. The same way that America had our own manifest destiny, that's kind of what's going on here. Is they're like, these guys, we can Christianize them and also shoot them with our guns and get money. And so they do. Some people, they're like, you can keep your religion, but we're just going to kill you for a little while. So this is what's going on. Shows us the Romanov dynasty. They are actually German ancestry, which is a fun little fact. And they're ruling Russia. And they pretty much keep expanding. Keep expanding. Right here is very notable. They decided to expand into the Turkic areas that you remember on the map, like Turkmenistan. Fight some wars with Iran. And, you know, they're getting so big. They love it. They're a force to be reckoned with. In fact, everyone in Europe's scared of them because there's so many fucking people. It's mostly empty, but it's still... And then that was the Russian Civil War. Now the Soviet Union. Imperial period. They conquered a lot of people. This ends in 1917 at the end of World War I. Russia was claiming as much land as they could. They even crossed and they conquered Alaska, which they sold to us. But the imperial era is just expansion and Russification, which is just anyone you conquer say, hey, you can be Russian, pay us taxes, speak Russian, and you're good. We don't really give a shit. Try to be Christianity, Orthodox like us, but like, fuck them. Soviet era, the Soviet Union, I hope you know about that. The goal to progress towards communism was started, and socialism began. But this wasn't normal socialism. This was like a dictator telling everyone what to do, and he could control everything. He could say, go build a factory, go do this. It sucked. I know I'm probably being a little bit rambly right now. I'm trying not to be. This is just the first lecture? Holy shit. Okay. Major rulers. Ivan the Great threw off Mongol rule. That's pretty nice. Remember the Mongols invading? Of course you do. That big blob that I was looking at? This is the guy that exploded them. Fuck them. Ivan the Great hates Mongols. Cemented Moscow's rule over the Russian lands. Obviously. No shit. Centralized the monarchy's power. Okay, so I'll forget all those big words. Ivan the Third the Great. Big name. Ivan the Third the Great. 3 fucking names. Or 3 words in his name. Killed the Mongols and said, I'm the captain now. Essentially. The expense of the nobility, he just kind of said, I'm the fucking best. Ivan, his son, infamous for his campaigns of terror. His name is Ivan the Terrible. You can kind of know that he's a bit of an asshole. Centralized power means he gave himself more power. Began killing because he loves killing. Peter the Great. He was like, yo, conquering, that was actually really fucking cool that we did 100 years ago. What if we conquer more? And so this is the start of the imperial era. That's kind of what he did. Peter the Great, I nicknamed my dick Peter. And like, Peter likes to grow. And that's exactly what Peter the Great wanted to do. So, transform Russia into one of Europe's great powers. Russia had some ass backwards hobbies. And so they kind of are like, hey, what if we structured our army in like march in big lines of soldiers and have like cool flags? Shit like that. Catherine the Great, she's actually goated. Russian culture was still a bit ass backwards. Like, they just get shit-faced, trashed. They'd have like these fur coats, which seems lit, and it is, but like they didn't give a fuck. And so Catherine the Great's like, oh, women can't read. Well, what if we read? And she's like, oh, there's some guys in like America that are like thinking about stuff. What if like we just bring a little philosophy and just think about why stuff is bad? Alexander II, mad chill. That's really it. He was pretty much mad chill. The reason why he was the most mad chill is because serfdom. This is going to be another small rant. So, feudalism is slavery with extra steps. If you live in a feudal society, you get to live on the land, but you have to work your entire life. You can't move, and you have to give most of the grain to the guy that actually owns the land, which is like a lord. So, for example, if I had like was in charge of like the military and had a fuck ton of money, and this is like way back in the day, it's not like the U.S. government, it's just like a bunch of guys with muskets, and we say we're the military. I say, hey, I own all this. You can build a house, pay me a little bit, and eventually I get money because that's a surplus of food, and I pay my soldiers, and I'm like, okay, let's tax them more. And so, in a feudal society, you do not own the land that you live and die on, and you're tied to the land. And it actually sucks, because you're going to go hungry a lot. You're going to grow all this food, but then you have to give away the food, otherwise you get shot and die. And you only have some food. And so it was fucking shit for a while. Russia is the most notable example of this, because it's so fucking big, like we were talking about. All that land that was conquered, just fields of just empty. And so they're like, let's grow some food, and that's why feudalism was big. It sucked. It is slavery with extra steps. So Alexander the Great's like, okay, what if we just be like a bit more capital? Mad chill like that. You want to make money? Go for it. Alexander the Third, anti-reactionary, anti-Semite. he was just kind of an asshole. He's like, all these poor people, I'm rich. I like being rich. I want my sons to be rich. And there's all these like poor people that are just kind of like fucking around. So let's be a dickhead. So gonna go through this a bit more. Russian Soviet versus Western scholarship on Russia and the USSR. So historiography is the study of history, which seems confusing because history is the study of past events. Historiography, you hear the word graph, like autobiography, biography, like graph, which is like written stuff. So this is the study of how history was written down. The Russian and the Soviet are basically how we look at the different perspectives of history. In the West, we're kind of like, the West we don't care as much, to be honest, because we're not Russia. Dude, I fucking hope my microphone's on. Oh my god, right? Whew. Okay, we're looking okay. 21 minutes. Okay, maybe I won't even edit this. Russian Soviets. They looked at their history and they're like, hey, there's always a king, let's go be communist, because they viewed their society as like, way back in the day there were slaves, and then there was feudalism, and then that eventually went to capitalism, and they believe capitalism eventually went to socialism, working together, and then communist is basically the perfect dream society that they imagined. And they see themselves differently, because in the US we're very individualistic. If I said, draw a picture of yourself, and then draw a picture of your friends, you probably draw a picture of yourself in the middle, maybe even a bit larger than your friends, because we're very individual-centric. In the Soviets, they're so used to being part of a bigger system that they just have different perspectives, if that kind of makes sense. They can debate whether it was a success or a failure, but there's a lot of debate, which doesn't make it that obvious. That anyway, totalitarian model. Stalin, total power, total badass, totally an evil dickhead. Revisionist school, late 1960s. I think that's when Nikita Khrushchev was in power. Khrushchev is a guy that dealt with the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cold War was in full swing. And Khrushchev and Kennedy were actually talking a little bit, trying to be like, hey, like, I don't want war. Like, I'm going to make the steps to make sure that you don't fuck me. But, like, I'm not going to outwardly fuck you. And obviously, that coming from your enemy, you don't really trust them. But, like, you know, the U.S., we had missiles in Turkey, because Turkey hates Russia, as previously said. And Russia didn't like those missiles on their doorstep. So they put Russia's in Cuba. And the U.S. didn't like missiles in Cuba. And so instead of blowing each other up, Khrushchev was like, and Kennedy were like, let's just chill. So they chilled. The archival revolution, 1990s, that's when the Soviet collapsed. It says, I don't really know what he means by this, but okay, Google that, because I don't know what he wants. I think that means that some people thought Russia was getting too weak and they just wanted another strong-ass man as Stalin, because I knew that was a movement in the military, but it didn't really work. Yeltsin-era openness. Soviet Union was collapsing. Essentially, like, they're making no dough. Turns out communism isn't good for making money, because communism doesn't like money. Other smart people left the country because it sucked. You actually sent me a Snapchat. Recording right now. Are you okay if it's not edited? Okay, running through the first page super fast. Slavic lands. You know that. It's all that green map. Slavic lands. This is it. These three countries. Russia, Ukraine, Belarus. These guys are also Slavic, but these guys are like in the sphere of Russia. You know, Poland was for a little bit, and Russia was friends with Yugoslavia, but this is Slavs. This is Slavs, 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 Slavs. The Baltic states. Remember those three states that were just on the little waterway just above Poland? That's them. Baltic states, baller. They're Western, they're our friends. The Caucasus. That's that mountains. Caucasus meaning white, white boy, white mountains, you, me, whiteys. If you're ever confused about the Caucasus, maybe hear the word, think of Georgia. Like, the name George is George Ref. He's a white boy. My dad is George. He's a white boy. Named after King George. White boy. White people, Caucasus, if that helps. Central Asia, those are all the Turks that we were talking about. You can call them Turkic, Mongol. Doesn't really matter. Just Turkic is fine. Siberian Far East. Empty, cold. Prehistory. They were pagans, and they're like, hey, let's be Christian and trade a little bit. And then, hey, we have some money, let's build a little city. And then, hey, our city got taken over by Mongols. So, what if we kill the Mongols? What if we keep killing? What if we try to share, but in actuality, we're going to keep killing and almost kill the entire world? Post-Soviet period. What if we're poor and a corrupt state and then kill Ukrainians? Ivan the Great, why was he so great? Well, killed the Mongols. Ivan 3. Think of it like this is the fucking trilogy, dog. Like in the trilogy finale, this is the man that fucking kicked out the Mongols. Badass. And he said, hey, I just fought my ass off to kill these Mongols. I'm in charge. And so his son is like, love you, Dad. I'm going to kill anyone that is like questioning me because like I'm in charge. I don't want to risk being weak. I'm going to be rule with an iron fist. I don't want no fucking Mongols to come by and conquer me. And my nickname is Ivan the Terrible because I do terrible things. I love killing. Peter the Great. Why was he so great? He's just chill. Peter likes to grow like a penis. And so he's like, hey, what if we just keep killing but we kill other people? Catherine the Great actually was like, you know, I love killing as much as the next guy. We can keep killing people over there, but what if we just hang out? The Americans had a revolution. What if we just think about ideas and shit? That could be cool, right? Alexander II. Another mad chill ruler. Look at this. They get more and more... Well, they don't get better, but... Ivan the Great gets independence. Ivan the Terrible, dickhead. Peter the Great, mad chill. Catherine the Great, even more mad chill. Holy shit. That's why she's the great. She's mad chill. I'll stop saying that, but she's cool. And then, oh wow, another chill ruler. He's like, hey, let's end serfdom. Let's let poor people get whatever job they want and have like an economy. Maybe let's even trade with other people. Fuck it, dude. And then Alexander III, next to last Tsar of Russia. He was a bit of an asshole. He's I hate Jews, I hate poor people, and I hate thinking. So just, I'm in charge. Think about that. Russia and the Soviet split. How we think about the Soviet Union is different. And Soviets also lost a bunch of archives because they're always at war and exploding and corrupt. Totalitarian model. That's when Stalin was in charge. Revision of school. That's when they started to be a little bit more chill. Not that nice, but a little bit more after Stalin died. Again, just go study that a bit more. Yeltsin era openness. Yeltsin wanted to westernize a little bit, and then when Putin was in charge, he was like, hey, we're not growing our economy. I'm going to rule with an iron fist, because I think that's what Russia needs. That's what Russia needs a lot, I fucking guess. And so, everyone listen to me. He was an ex-KGB officer, KGB being the Russian equivalent to the CIA. And so, he knows some shit. So, thanks for listening to episode 1. Exactly 29 minutes.